I'm Rachel Madel from Talking with Tech.
And I'm Chris Bouguet from Talking with Tech.
We have a podcast dedicated to augmentative and alternative communication, all things related to helping kids with complex communication needs.
If you have a passion for helping people with language disabilities, this is the show for you. Each episode features an interview or a roundtable discussion on a topic related to augmentative communication and helping people with language disabilities.
And we're really passionate about giving practical strategies to clinicians working in the field who are working with children or adults, anything related to AAC.
So you can look us up on iTunes, or you can find us on Facebook. We got a group over there, or check out our website at bit.ly/TWT podcast.
Please join our community of professionals that are working to ensure that everyone can say whatever they want to say, however they want to say it.
Please listen carefully.
What is communication?
An essential behavior of life. We have the both blessing and responsibility of trying to foster another.
It's the strongest way for two people to convey information to each other.
Communication is a lifeline.
It's just connection with other people.
Connecting people in terms of ideas, thoughts, or needs.
Draws us out of ourselves, draws us into that relationship, builds up our families. Without it, we'd be lost.
Whatever it is that we do to express intent and achieve an impact.
Communication is the ability to express your needs, wants, frustrations, and desires to anyone that you feel needs to have that information.
Welcome to Speech Science episode 81, proud member of the Exceptional Podcast Network. I'm your host, Matt Hott, joined by my other hosts all the way out in Philadelphia, Michael McLeod.
What's up, buddy?
Michael, how is Philadelphia tonight?
Philadelphia is great. I just got back from a long trip. I went to a great friend's wedding out in Lake Tahoe. So I just got home at midnight last night. But Philadelphia is great. It's doing well.
Lake Tahoe is a beautiful place.
Lake Tahoe is unbelievable. I want to move out there.
And that voice belongs to our Kentucky resident, Michelle Wintering. Michelle, how are you?
Doing great. How are you, Matt?
I am good. I am still so jealous of your hippotherapy, the training with horses that you were able to do a couple weeks ago.
That was pretty cool. I'm hoping I get a chance to utilize it sometime in the near future.
Your horseback therapy sessions, I think, would be legit.
Yeah. Hey, there we go.
Guys, it's been a wonderful time this past week. I quit my old job and took a new job at a new school district, which changes my entire plans for the next 5 years. So I'm riding this weird nostalgia wave of leaving one school district and going to another school district.
Well, congrats.
That sounds like a lot of work.
So I'm going from 67 students to 34.
Okay.
What ages will you be working with?
I'll be 7th and 8th grade, I believe.
It's a fun year.
I know, right? So it's close to my high school age, so it's still in my wheelhouse of specialties. I don't have to play with farm equipment like barnyard animals and the little people, so I'm okay with that.
You're going to be doing a lot of wrestling and Fortnite talk.
Yes! I love that stuff.
Have fun.
I've never played Fortnite, but I might do it just for research.
Don't do it, dude. Don't do it.
Michael, what's been going on with you this past week for therapy?
So I just came back today. Today was my first day back from a little break. Just preparing for a bunch of evals coming up, doing a lot of evals tend to come this time of year as the school year winds down, prepping for the summer schedule, doing a lot of social groups, and getting a lot of my my older guys together to do some pragmatic work together. But yeah, should be a good summer.
That's awesome. Michelle, how's your therapy work going?
Well, update for you is that I had orientation this week for a new job with outpatient pediatrics. So I will be playing with more barnyard animals and little people.
But that's in your wheelhouse though, right?
Oh yeah. I love peds.
I give credit to you guys, you people that want to do peds. I do not have the patience for it.
Is that because you have two at home?
I don't know. I just had to ground them tonight for one kicking over a Lego tower and then the other one for tattletaling on him. But
Did
then
you step on the Lego tower? Because then I feel for you.
No, but I had to explain to the other one what tattletaling meant because I was like, buddy, you are a tattletale. And then he started like hyperventilating and he's like, I don't want to be a tattletale. And I was like, oh, we are at a level 10. Why are we at a 10? And then he was like, when he calmed down, he's like, what's a tattletale? And I was like, well, can't ground you for that, I guess, at this point. So,
wow.
Daily lessons in the life of parenthood.
You run a tight ship over there, dude.
Don't have kids. That is the lesson of this. On today's episode, we will not be a tattletale, but we have Dr. Robertson, ASHA President, on today's show, guys. Woo!
Awesome.
Or not. I thought there would be much more fanfare. I'm excited by that. Also, we'll be talking something out of Baltimore. It's a Baltimore club for adults with disabilities. We will talk a little bit about the importance of reading aloud to middle school students. But first, I thought we'd start with this article that I believe, Michael, you sent over. This is coming out of the NPR.org. It's behind the shortage of special ed teachers, the long hours, the crushing paperwork. I'm going to add in low pay. It's a national shortage of special ed teachers. I'm not exactly surprised by any of this. 49 states report that 49 states report a shortage. 12.3% of special ed teachers leave the profession, nearly double the rate of general education teachers.
Yeah, I instantly, as soon as I found this, I posted it to my private practice Facebook page, and which a lot of other SLPs and special educators follow, and it instantly got shared by everyone, liked. They put that little heart thing, the smiley face thing,
the love.
There you go. But yeah, it absolutely resonates. And I know so many people that have left this field and go and accept even less money somewhere else due to the burnout and due to the paperwork. And it's terrible. And you see it pretty much all over the medical field. We talk about this all the time. You go to the doctor nowadays, and half the time he's on the computer, not even looking at you, he or she, the doctor. Really, everything is documentation and notes and everything nowadays. It's terrible. And for people that are working with special ed kids that need their attention and need their care, for them to be doing so much paperwork constantly, something has to change. And I'm sure it wasn't this way. I'm still relatively young in the field, in the career, but I'm sure it was not this way forever. And change definitely needs to happen so there's better work-life balance.
And I think where they said it's about double of regular education teachers, and there's already a huge turnover of regular education teachers after, what do they say? I know I've read
5 years
in the first 4 to 5 years of teaching.
51% of all school districts and 90% of high poverty schools report having difficulty recruiting highly qualified special education teachers. I know that I've contemplated leaving even in the speech therapy realm a couple of times. And I don't want to say it comes down to money, but I could walk into a SNF or a hospital and make twice the salary that I made a couple years ago in the school district. And that's very tempting for a 28, 29-year-old therapist or special education teacher.
And what makes matters worse is so many of these schools are contacting these contracting agencies where school employees now are pretty much becoming just straight contractors, not getting any benefits, not getting any, just basically if school's out, if there's a snow day, summer, don't get paid. And it's, schools are saving money doing these things, but once again, it's hurting SLPs.
And schools have one of the few, education systems in various states have some of the few remaining pensions and locked in retirement plans. So there are people who want to stick with it for that, but start looking at other options, like you said, Matt, because of salaries.
Well, how about this for terrifying? I was talking to a teacher at my school district, or my old school district, and he said that he has been teaching for 30 years, but he's got to work another 10 because the state he worked in, I think it was Kentucky, when they filed bankruptcy, they destroyed everyone's pension. No one had their pension left over.
Yeah, that's absolutely terrible. That is beyond terrifying.
So he has to work 10 more years just to get his retirement up to a normal state. And that reminded me that I needed to go and get my 403B set up. So in case that happens, I'm not totally in the poorhouse.
That's so scary.
Yeah.
But we talk about caseloads. We talk about paperwork. I did the math this year between progress reports, report cards, IEPs, ETRs. I did 3,121 pieces of paperwork this year.
Wow.
I'm not even surprised. You said that number, and having worked in the schools, it doesn't even faze me.
So, I mean, everyone says, what can we do? And everyone says ASHA needs to step in and help. And I hate to say it, and I've said it multiple times on different Facebook groups, ASHA's not a legal body. They can't come in and tell the school district what to pay SLPs or special ed teachers. This is where we have to get the ground troops together and go to the union and fight for more rights.
There's been a lot of very successful teacher strikes recently, all across the country. And it's just one of those things, the school comes around in late August, early September, and they expect you to be there. But if you unionize and fight for your salary and fight for your rights, you're absolutely right. Everyone needs someone to blame, and oftentimes ASHA is that person to blame. We pay those dues. We do the CEUs, we do all the pain in the neck stuff, all the credentials and everything. But in terms of salaries and caseload numbers and benefits and those sorts of things, that's on us.
And West Virginia is trying to pass a law right now to ban teacher strikes, just so you know.
Goodness
gracious. Do either of you, or if anyone listening, have any research or info on, I'd be very curious about the turnover of SLPs in schools, because I haven't seen data on that.
I do not have any data on that. I'm looking at ASHA real quick, and I'm downloading a PowerPoint from Dr. Johnny O'Connor.
That seems to me like data that ASHA would not proudly put out there.
Trying to see. It says there's 11% deficit each year in the field, but that could be from retirement or anything. Oh, no, that is a good question. Would love to. Oh, turnover intent. 0.892. So I don't know what that is in this study. I'll link it, and then we'll find more for next week. I don't know what the turnover data is for SLPs.
And if you're an SLP, so much of what we do is affected by politics. So you have to get out there and vote. I think even just for instance, the ASHA election that we recently talked about, I think there was 4% of SLPs voted, I think.
4.5%. Last year there was just under 4.5%, and this year was just 4.5%. People voting. And now that you brought that up, we will recognize that Dr. Lynn Williams won for president-elect. Julie A. Honecker won for Vice President of Academic Affairs and Audiology. Craig Coleman won for Vice President of Planning. And Sharon Moss won for Vice President for Standards and Ethics and Speech-Language Pathology. 2 of the people that we interviewed out of the 5 won their positions, guys.
Congrats to
them.
And
they all mentioned us in their acceptance speeches.
I wish they did.
No, they did. They did.
And the Speech Science Podcast, #SSPod.
That's right. But
hey, you know what? If you're at home and you want to weigh in on either the ASHA elections, the 4%, or on burnout or lack thereof in school districts, please head us up. Head over to our website, Speech Science Podcast. And from there, you can find us and all the XPN networks. Also, make sure you give us a phone call or text 614-681-1798, or email us speechsciencepodcast@gmail.com. And if they're social media users,
#SSPod.
And on Instagram, speech_science.
I always forget Instagram. I'm terrible. But you could email us like Katie Matthews did. She is an SLP out of Boston, working for a private practice and mostly pediatric population. And she wants to weigh in a little bit on our conversation from a couple weeks ago about person first versus identity first language. Do you guys remember that conversation?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do.
So she says that she writes for a website called stairwaytostem.org. We'll put a link down in our show notes. And she works Her editor has autism, as a person with autism, and they talk about first-person language or identity first. And I'm cruising around their website, and where did it go? Here it is. It talks a lot about when to use which language. Pretty cool. Thanks for the heads up, Katie. We do appreciate that.
Awesome. I'm going to save that link.
Yes, it is stairwaytostem.org. So we will put that in our show notes. Our second article for tonight is our research article, Reading Aloud to Middle School Students. Guess what? It helps them. Any surprise there? I always like just getting right to the chase. Is there any surprise reading aloud helps?
Absolutely.
Well, I love that we're talking about older kids as well, because we talk so much about how important it is to read to young children, but that the reading aloud, that this article points out, reading aloud shouldn't just stop because the kid starts kindergarten or first grade or wherever it is that they're reading by themselves or able to read by themselves.
And now, mind you, this is an introductory study, so the numbers are small. So Michael, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Yeah, I think, I work with a lot of these middle school age students, and really what you see is so much of, with the rise of technology, books are kind of falling by the wayside. And when it comes to reading, picking up a book and turning open to a page filled with words to read, for these teens that don't have a lot of experience with it, it's a really anxiety-producing task. It's just so incredibly non-preferred to have to pick up a book and read a book and visualize it. And, the thought of reading 2 pages and then stopping and saying, oh, what did I just read? What was that? It's such a non-preferred task, and it increases behaviors and it increases anxiety. And this task of reading aloud shows that it helps to decrease that anxiety.
The article is originally, or the research comes from Contemporary Issues in Educational Research by Jennifer Cohart Marshalt from Grand Canyon University and Karen H. Larwin from Youngstown up here in Ohio. They do talk about a couple positives and negatives to read aloud. The positives is that it's a positive model for reading behaviors that bridges and the scaffolding between text and reading or real life. They can also support student responses. Some of the negatives can be seen as being too teacher directed or lacking the release of responsibility to the students to take ownership over the learning.
It's a simple idea, though, that the author stated in the first couple paragraphs there, of that she, for 5 minutes of each class period, she reads aloud to her middle school students. And if you think about it, you can find 5 minutes in a lot of class periods, right? Like 5 minutes that you can focus on reading aloud to those students. And my thought is it might spark them to want to continue reading, because you're only going to read a little segment of that book. So they might want to know what happens next, or follow along with you. It's going to give them a little bit more motivation.
Do you guys read aloud with your therapy students?
If one of my students comes to a session with some reading they have to do, it would be a rare occasion that we would do something like that. But
okay.
But yeah, I would, especially after listening to this wonderful podcast and hearing about it, I might give it a shot.
Well, and I definitely do it with younger kids, but this makes me think I shouldn't eliminate that with the older students as well.
That's fair.
Yeah, we always associate this reading to younger kids, but I'm an adult. I would love it if someone read to me. Why we have the children's books we read aloud to kids, but this is really something that's beneficial to people of all ages, really.
I know that what I end up doing, if I've got a reading comp group, what I'll do is we all take turns and read a paragraph or 2 out loud, and I make sure that I'm part of that reading group. So, the student next to me will read, and then I'll read, and then they'll read. And I just want them to understand that sometimes, and it sounds as goofy as it is, sometimes I stumble over words, and I don't want them to feel goofy when they stumble over a word. But I also like it because there is some give and take.
I think that's a great model, though, Matt, is showing them that you're not a perfect reader or public speaker as well.
Yes, that is a very good point, because so many of these teens try to be absolute perfectionists with their reading, and learning that it's okay to stumble over a word or not recognize a word or have to reread a sentence 2 or 3 times. Reading is not a perfect art. You have to, you get better at it the more you do it. So it's like being able to run a couple of miles at once. You got to start slow, you got to walk, and you got to build up to it. True.
Well, we want to hear from you. What are you doing in your therapy settings? Are you reading aloud? Head over to our website, speechsciencepodcast.com, and email us speechsciencepodcast@gmail.com, or give us a phone call or text 614-681-1798. Social media users, what do they do?
Hashtag SSPod. And let us know too, this just came to mind for me, if you use read aloud with adults or with home health.
Good.
I'm thinking as people age, that might be something that could be beneficial. This is just a idea.
I like that. Coming up after the break, ASHA President Dr. Robertson stopped by to talk about what's happening in ASHA. Also, her idea for more imagination in therapy and why we should be attending not only the National Convention in November, but the ASHA Connect. You're listening to Speech Science.
Do you have an idea for a product or book? Or are you ready to go beyond in-service presentations? Well, how do you get started? And what if you don't have any business experience at all? Well, I have some great news for you. I'm Mei-Ling Chan, and I'm getting the nitty-gritty stories from parents, teachers, therapist advocates, and people with disabilities who have created successful businesses, and they're sharing their intimate stories with you. Listen to us on the Exceptional Leaders Podcast and fast-track creating and building and sharing your idea with the world so that you can help more people.
Welcome back to Speech Science. I'm Matt Hott, joined by ASHA President Dr. Shari Robertson. Dr. Robertson, how are you doing today?
I'm just fine, thank you. Delighted to be here.
And I'm going to call you Dr. Robertson just because of the position, and I feel like I have to do that. So I apologize ahead of time.
I'm quite comfortable with Shari or Dr. Robertson. Either one is fine. Or as my students always call me, Dr. R. So you may choose.
So let's get started a little bit about you, because we've never had you on air before. How did you what made you want to run for president a couple years ago, and how has that been being the president of ASHA?
That's a really good question. It's kind of like every other leadership position that I've been in, and I've had a number as I've gone through the years, where it just kind of wraps itself around you. So several years ago, I had someone mention that they thought I should run for the board of directors. And at that point, I was elected vice president for academic affairs and speech language pathology. And I just found that board service to be so rewarding. A lot of work, but so rewarding to know that we are working on behalf of our colleagues and the professions. And by virtue of that, the clients, the students, the patients that we work with. So I did 3 years on the board, and I planned to be finished. I thought that was great. Service was wonderful. Never really had being president of ASHA on my radar until I had a call from the Committee on Nominations and Elections, and they said, we've had so many people say we'd really like you to encourage Shari to run. And so I got that phone call, and that was really my first thought about that. And after some discussions with my family, knowing how much time that would take and knowing that the odds of winning were astronomical, I said I would be happy to be considered to be put on the ballot. And that's kind of the way it happened. So my daughter actually said, when I ended up on the ballot, she said, "Do you actually want me to vote for you?" Or, but by that time I said, "No, I'm committed now." So it was like as many other things, people get involved when you ask them to get involved, and that invitation is something that I take very seriously when I'm trying to nurture other leaders. Is sometimes it just takes someone saying, "We think you'd be good at this."
ASHA elections are wrapping up if they're not wrapped up today. What was that like when you got that phone call? And when did you find out that you were elected president? What was that, 2 years ago?
Yeah. Yeah, so that was very interesting. I was actually on an island in the Bahamas with no phone service. So this was pretty interesting. My friend Gail Richard was the president at that time. And so she was making those phone calls. And you're right, it was almost this time of year because on Thursday, I will be making those very same phone calls. But my phone buzzed and I was out in the middle of the ocean on a kayak. And we had to drive for miles to try to find some signal because we couldn't get any signal. So I just about, it was probably a good thing I wasn't in the kayak because I probably would have fallen overboard and, been turtle fodder. But I sat in a parking lot on one of the out islands in the Bahamas with my chin on my chest, and my husband was actually not with me. So I called him and told him, and he thought I was kidding. He really didn't think I was serious. Then he began to realize what that was going to mean to him. So, so it was very exciting. Yes, it was.
I was going to say that's one way to handle the elections. If you win, you're celebrating in the Bahamas, and if you lose, you're still in the Bahamas.
You're celebrating. Exactly right. Yeah, exactly right.
So now that you're looking, so you'll be transitioning from current president to past president. What will be some of your goals as past president?
Well, I'm really not even halfway through my presidential year yet. So that ends in December 31st. So, so to be honest, I've still got a lot of goals we're working on for this year. So lots of exciting.
I apologize.
Irons in the fire. Yeah. Well, even though the elections are over, those people, the elects, won't take office until January 1st. So that gives them time to join us in the fall at a meeting to be onboarded. There's a lot of orientation that takes place. So I am very much involved still is what I'm doing as president right now. So as president-elect, my job is basically to be there to help support the current president's initiatives, and just to provide guidance in terms of the things that may work or may not work. But past presidents also work very hard on nominations and elections and helping make sure that we are continuing to have a good, robust pool to choose from. The past president also manages the cultivation of leadership for young leaders besides just nominations and elections, and also does a lot of outreach as well. So there are some things that will be happening, but I will tell you right now, my brain isn't quite there yet because I have so many things going on yet this year.
So let's talk about the elections. It seems this year seems more than any other year. The elections seem to be big on Facebook. Have you guys noticed a larger turnout or more social media interactions about the election?
Well, I've certainly been aware of more social media interactions. There's been, and I do not typically comment on many of those, but I do follow a lot of that. And that's actually something we are looking at as how we need to perhaps begin to think about how to frame that. But yes, this year, and we're delighted in many ways that we've got members asking questions and things are happening so that people are perhaps more aware of our candidates, and that's a really good thing. In terms of the turnout, I actually won't know that for a couple of days yet.
Okay.
So I don't have that data. I do not know where the elections stand right now.
So let's look ahead towards what we're wrapping up now. We're wrapping up Better Speech and Hearing Month. This is the month where we all in the schools and in home healthcare and nursing facilities get to post things on our boards and talk all about it. How do we carry what we're doing here in Better Speech and Hearing Month, into June or August or September?
Yeah, I love that particular question because, first of all, I don't know if you know my background, so I did spend 20 plus years in the schools. So I'm still very connected with the schools. My mom was a
school-based SLP as well. And my daughter's an audiologist.
Oh.
So we do have quite a few connections in that. But one of the things that we did this year, and I like the fact that you said, yeah, we're getting information in our boxes, our inboxes. There was a survey this year where they surveyed parents directly and tried to get an idea of what parents knew about communication, the early signs of communication disorders, what they needed to do. So there's quite a bit of information that's available to ASHA members to share with parents and to help. And we did a media tour on May 1st. We did interview after interview after interview in trying to help spread this information as an association. But as an individual member, I think one of the things I talk a lot about as I do outreach at state associations, or I've done a number of international talks, I talk with leaders, is my vision this year and my theme for the year is about imagination and how imagination drives innovation, and how as speech language pathologists and audiologists who drive innovation, I call it imaginologists, how we can make communication accessible and achievable for all. That's ASHA's vision, that the communication is a human right, and that we need to make it accessible and achievable for all. And we do that by doing what we do best, which is talking about it, which is sharing the information. ASHA has so many resources that you can use to send home with parents, to put on your own social media pages, to write articles in your own local newspapers. Usually local newspapers are dying for copy and for information like that. But for me, it's about being an advocate for communication, no matter where I am, who I'm talking to, or what month of the year it is, that we can imagine more. We can imagine making communication accessible and achievable for all. And the only way we can truly do that is if we really believe that and we put our heart and soul into it. And that may sound a lot like, oh yeah, Pollyanna, for people who are old enough to know who Pollyanna is. But I truly am a Pollyanna, that when I go out and I give this message, I see people get fired up and excited about, hey, what we do is really important. And if we don't believe that, nobody else is going to believe it. So that's my spiel on what we can do to keep it going. And we have to keep it going in us first. We have to stay excited about it, and then we can share it with others and tap into the information that ASHA has. They're sending out things. There's social media where you can get in and earn points to get your badges, but you can by sharing information. There's that survey has got a lot of really interesting stuff that we can push out as well. So use the resources you have, but tap into your inner imaginologist and show them what we can do.
I love that. And when you were talking about that, it sounded really familiar, and I had to Google the imaginologist, and I put ASHA, and I was like, oh yeah, I read your article. Was that last month or 2 months ago?
That was in January.
Was that January?
Somebody actually read those.
That's how I get all my content for the show.
Our convention theme this year is Imagine More for our ASHA convention in November. And so, I've been trying to talk to people about, how do we imagine more for our clients and our patients? And imagination is the only way anything ever happens. So let's imagine. And it seems to be resonating. I've been getting a lot of people saying, I just needed somebody to say that, to say we can do that. And because, there's so many times that things divide us because we work in different settings, but we really have more in common. And if we can look at the positive side of things, that's where we start.
I love that, because I work in the schools and I do home health care as well. And when I talk to my coworkers, and we're always talking about being imaginative in our therapy activities, and just taking that whole idea from just the therapy setting into our professional interactions with our coworkers. I never even thought of that, and I still love that idea.
Good. I love that it sparked a little something.
Before we talk about the convention, what are some of the things that you would like to see accomplished or pushed through for ASHA during these next couple of months? I know we've got the Schools Connect in June, but what would you like to see ASHA do over the next couple of months before we talk about those conventions?
Great. And Schools Connect, or the ASHA Connect, is actually in the middle of July.
I'm sorry.
We have it on our calendars. It's actually in the middle of July. So maybe people may or may not know that the ASHA Board of Directors is guided by a strategic plan, so that we have 8 objectives that all of the things that all of our activities, all of our efforts and resources need to be guided by the strategic plan. And the reason that happens is because, as you mentioned, I'm on this presidential ride for 1 year. Someone else takes after a year. And every year, about a third of the board changes. And we can't have everyone coming in and just saying, all right, this is what I want to do, because many of these projects are multi-year projects. You know, when you're making big changes or you're trying to affect change, you have to have a plan that guides that. So we have a strategic plan that guides us in the efforts that we do. And at our board meetings, every agenda item has to talk about, well, not every agenda item, but when they're big initiatives, they have to talk about what strategic goal those address. So within that, we can be innovative and we can think about what we want to do and change. But I think it's important that people know that there is a plan that is available for anyone to see. If you get on the ASHA website and just look at strategic plan, that guides us, and that was developed with member input. So every president has things that they are looking to accomplish, and for me, it's really about helping people connect more with understanding. Let me back up just a minute. It's really important for me that members know that they are part of ASHA. The board of directors are just 16 ASHA members that are volunteers who are trying to do the best job that they can do for the association. So it's really important that we hear from members. So I travel a lot telling people, you know, we want to hear from you, we want your input. So having said all that, there are a number of initiatives that we are working on right now. One is, many people might have heard about the governance review that we're working on right now, which when Gail Richard was president, she realized that we needed to make some changes to, or perhaps changes to how ASHA governance was run. And so an ad hoc committee was appointed, and their charge was just look at it, see where we are. It's been about 10 years. Do we need to make some changes? And we're in the middle of that right now. And there are 4 recommendations from that committee that are pretty substantial recommendations. And that is something we're putting a lot of energy into, and trying to listen to members as we make decisions about whether we should go forward and make some of these rather large changes. But there's a lot of other things going on too. We have an initiative on a multi-state compact for licensing, which impacts a lot on people who might be doing telepractice or live close to a state line, so that but now if you're in telepractice, you have to have a license in the state you reside in and in any of the states, where you serve. So there's an initiative going forward on multi-state licensing. There's an initiative going forward on looking at assistance and how we need to, whether we need to do some accreditation of them, not in the same way that a national member would have, but so that they would have some sort of a credential. There's things that are going on related to, I just lost my train of thought, and it was the best one that I wanted to remember. Credentialing. As we move forward, and we're thinking about how we can do some outreach internationally. So we are working with WHO, the World Health Organization, and ASHA members are going to countries that are underserved or do not have any speech language pathologists as a profession or audiologists, and we're providing expertise and support to do that. There are so many wonderful initiatives going on. Value of the Cs campaign. Mm-hmm. One of the things our members told us is people don't know what the Cs are. So it's a value, ASHAcertified.org, the Value of Disease campaign that provides all sorts of information, stuff you can put in your social media. And the other one I want to mention is the identifythesigns.org, which is another great initiative that we're moving forward. So that's a few of the things that we're working on. And that's what I don't think people realize is we listen to what members say they want, and we try to work on each one of those. So hopefully that gives you a general idea of some of the things that are happening.
I didn't realize identifythesigns.org was an ASHA initiative. And as I pull up the website, now that I'm looking for it, it says ASHA right next to the browser.
Yep. And that was something that Patty Prelock started when she was president. Well, that would have been about 8 years ago. So, and that's a really rich website with there's public service announcements, a lot of really interesting stuff going on in there. And of course, the other thing people probably don't realize is the advocacy piece and how much time we spend on Capitol Hill trying to make sure, and at this, with various things at state level, trying to make sure that legislation that's moving through is not harmful to our profession.
Mm-hmm. And I know you're very generous with your time. So I want to talk a little bit about both the Schools Connect and the ASHA conference in November. I've never been to the Schools Connect. It's in Chicago, Illinois this year, July 19th through the 21st. It's the Schools Connect, Healthcare Connect, and Private Practice Connect. What is that like? And for a therapist like myself who's never been, is that something to go to, or should I wait for ASHA or go to both? What would be your suggestion?
Well, now you're right, it used to be called ASHA Schools, and then we also had a healthcare conference, and we have a private practice conference. They were 3 separate conferences. And I've actually been to all 3 of those when they were separate, because actually I have several businesses on the side, so I do a lot of stuff related to entrepreneurship. I've spoken at the health conference on things related to time and stress management, and then of course I spent many years in the school. But recently, and I think in about it's been about 5 years when they decided to co-locate these, because it was in many ways it was cheaper to put them all in one place at the same time.
Makes sense.
And that's evolved over the years. So now at the Connect conferences, now you can actually, even if you register for the schools conference, you can get CEUs at the healthcare and private practice, because sometimes they have some very interesting stuff. So you register for one, but you can go to the others. Now, why should I go? That's the important piece. I love the Connect conference. It's more intimate, and it is focused on, so you're in the schools, they vet, the speakers are all invited, and the presentations are vetted very carefully, so that these are top-level speakers who can provide real hands-on, this is what you can do when you're back in your classroom on Monday, or if you are, in healthcare or private practice. These are people who know what they're talking about, and they can give you functional hands-on. Plus, because of it's smaller, it's much more intimate, and it's actually a lot of fun. This year, the foundation event, the ASH Foundation, which is also near and dear to my heart, is a cruise down the Chicago River, which is pretty cool. But there's lots more networking that goes on at the Connect conferences, because they're so much smaller and they're so much more focused. But there's still a great exhibit hall with lots of great exhibitors. But the sessions, for me, I think people go, first of all, because they love the smaller size, but the sessions are so high quality. So you go to the Connect if you want to find focused things. Of course, the conference, the convention is a whole other level.
I was going to say,
and when you're ready to ask about that, I will go on to my next skill about the convention.
I was going to say that's right where we're going to go. I'll be at ASHA. I'll be attending the ASHA SEALs event, and then trying to fill my brain with everything. What are you, and then also maybe I might hit Disney when we're done, but what are you looking forward to at the November conference?
We're trying to get our closing party so we're working on that. We don't have that for sure yet, but I know Ellen Shortle, who is our amazing convention coordinator, is working hard on some really exciting things that we'll be doing while we're there. So having said that, I need to go back to your original question. What am I, because I got so excited when you talked about
I'm excited by that.
Tell me again what your question was.
First, I got to ask, am I allowed to air that?
Oh, that we're going to try to have. Well, all I can say is we're working on it. You
Okay.
absolutely can. We're working on it. I can't guarantee it.
Okay.
But we're working hard on trying to get our closing party there. We can talk about it. We just don't know for sure yet.
I
So
love it.
if it works, it works. Well, maybe you shouldn't. I don't know.
So what are we'll bleep it out and then everyone will be confused. So what are you looking forward to at the November conference?
So for me, I get such a rush when I go to convention. For me, it's kind of old home week where you get to meet all your colleagues that are spread across the country. So I get so much energy from that. Now, as president, I'm told that I'm scheduled so tightly that they even put on my schedule like when I can go to the bathroom. So it's going to be a little different conference for me this year. But what I'm looking forward to is I will get a chance to talk to all these different constituency groups that are there. From Tuesday through Sunday, I get a chance to connect with all of the different groups that are there. And that's really exciting for me. But I also know that we have some really wonderful initiatives going on. We're going to have an Imaginarium where people can go and get actually work together and try to create new projects right in our Imaginarium. And we'll also have fun activities to do just because sometimes we just need to go and blow off some steam. But we're also going to have I can't remember what we're going to call it. We're going to also have an area for people who like to imagine quietly by themselves. So the extroverts will have the Imaginarium, and the introverts, I can't remember quite what we were going to call it, but the introverts will have their area too. So we're going to try to carry this theme, and I am really excited about having a chance to do the talk at the opening session, because I've got a few surprises up my sleeve that we'll be working on the next. Actually, I'm going to be working on this week when I'm at the board meeting, as we start to see if we can make those things really happen. We've got a great opening speaker. We're working on who's our Annie Award winner, and fingers crossed on the person we're hoping it's going to be. So there are some surprises in store, but as usual, we're going to have great speakers, lots of variety. Our topic chairs are so innovative, and so they've got our co-chairs, our convention co-chairs are so innovative. Jessica Sullivan and Lori Sterling, I can't keep up with them. So there's going to be so many fun things that are going on. So I'm excited about convention. Perhaps you noticed that. And for me, it's just the largest gathering of Imaginologists in the world. And who wouldn't want to be part of that?
Now, the Annie Glenn Award, I always love that, because I actually went to a small school here in Ohio called Muskingum, and that's actually where Annie and John Glenn are from. So the Annie Glenn Award is always super personal to me, and I just love hearing who's done it and winning it. And I almost met Annie Glenn one time, and I was an undergrad in college and was too nervous to go talk to her. So.
Oh, those things happen when we think, why did I hold back? Yes, and every year we look for someone who is not in the profession who first exemplifies either what we do or has a foundation or somehow has been affected by what we do as speech-language pathologists and audiologists. And it's, sometimes it can be a challenge to find just the right person, but we know that more people are affected than most people realize. Someone in their family most likely has been affected by speech language swallowing or hearing disorder. And so we're always on the lookout. So we've got an idea, we've got a lead. We're hoping it will pan out, and if it does, it's going to be pretty amazing.
That's awesome.
But that is a very exciting, and I've had a chance to meet Annie and John Glenn backstage when I was on the board before. before we lost John, when they would come to give these awards. And now we're at the point where Annie is really past the point where she can travel, but she always sends us a lovely letter that we share, when we give the award. So it's a very touching thing. I actually won a few years ago. I was in Ohio, and I won the Annie Glenn Leadership Award, which was very meaningful for me and hangs on my wall. And that's presented by a group in Ohio. So that was very exciting.
Is that the OSLA group?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wayne Secord had a leadership initiative, and I was very honored to be able to hang that up on my wall.
Yeah, my wife always gives me a hard time. She's like, you should have just gone up and said hi to Annie. I said hi to her, and I was like, you're much more outgoing than I am.
Yeah.
You have been so awesome with your time. What are some things, like, as we wrap up here, that we didn't get to touch on that you kind of wanted to let people know about, or what can they find online that you want to push them towards, or anything like that?
Well, I've done quite a bit of that already. I'm giving you some. But I think one of the things I tell people a lot is there is a lot of information on the ASHA website. So a lot of times people will say to me things like, where do I find? And I say, your first step should be ASHA.org. The practice portal, which is a whole array of vetted information in terms of assessment and treatment. There's evidence maps. If you don't know, you've got a challenging client or a patient or a student, that's your first step, and it's free. It's there. It's one of the perks that you have as an ASHA member. There's information on advocacy. That's one of the things that I was not nearly as comfortable with when you talk about going up to people, is how important it is for us to step up and speak out, because I was always, I'm from the Midwest too. I was raised with, just let your work speak for yourself. Well, what I've learned is that, and you've probably heard this before, but I still share it, that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So if you're not there speaking up, we're going to get eaten alive by other groups who speak louder. And I just did a congressional briefing a few weeks ago on Capitol Hill, which was quite an experience. And David McKinley is a representative from West Virginia who has a cochlear implant on one side, hearing aid on the other. And he is a lion for us in terms of advocating. But he said to us, where are you? You're supposed to be communication specialists, and we need to hear from you. So as speech language pathologists and audiologists, we need to do it with our local. We need to do it state. We need to write our senators, sign up for the headlines, ASHA headlines, so that they can send you information that says, we need to hear your voice. If we want to get stuff done, we're the ones that have to do it. As that's what we do. So for me, it's about being proud of what we do, supporting each other, imagining all of the things that we can do when we put all of the imagination power together. By the way, there are now over 200,000 of us as ASHA members. Most people don't realize how big that is for an association. So use our imagination power, and of course, come to convention. Come to convention and have come to the big party and help us imagine more together.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with us today.
That was wonderful. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it very much, and best wishes as you go forward.
Welcome back to Speech Science. I'm Matt Hott, joined as always my favorite cast and crew, Michelle Wintering.
Hi, Matt.
And Michael McLeod.
What's up, buddy?
And I hate to do that to everybody, but we know what's underneath that bleep. Unfortunately, everyone listening does not know what's underneath that bleep for the National Convention. So that'll be something that we get to keep close to our chest until ASHA makes an announcement about that.
Very exciting.
I love that kind of stuff.
Speech Science exclusive.
Right, but we can't play it for anybody. Anywho, our fun article tonight, our positive article coming tonight, is out of the Baltimore Sun, and it's a Baltimore club for adults with disability, which fosters love, friendship, and inclusion. And first, before we even get into this, I love the idea of adult clubs, not that kind of an adult club, but like, but spots for like adults to get together to have like engagement, cards, drinks that is not what we normally do. And we used to do it, our society used to do it, and we just don't do it anymore. And I love hearing about it. But this one is Club, I don't even know how to say this, Club 1111, where hundreds come to dance and make friends. Some want to find love, but all are drawn because of the sense of safety, and no one is judging them. And they are all adults with different disabilities. I love this idea.
I think it's great. And if you look through the pictures, it just brings me a lot of joy. And it also reminds me of, I know I've mentioned it before, but I spent several summers out in Colorado working for Adams Camp. And while I was working on the therapy side, this therapy adventure camp, they have once you kind of graduate, or if you don't need therapy any longer, young adults all the way through adults can still attend camp. And it truly is just an adventure camp. And the last night is this whole dance and party. And I think that night seems like it's a taste of what Club 1111 might be, of just inclusiveness and joy and celebrating being together.
I just found a picture of a gentleman getting a temporary tattoo, and it made me smile from ear to ear. I love this kind of stuff. I wonder if we could get something like this into different towns. That would be fun.
Where is this one?
Baltimore.
Nice. Not too far.
I was going to say, that doesn't seem too far from you, right?
No, not at all. It's not far from you either.
It's a long-awaited evening when the League for People with Disabilities transforms into a glittering nightclub for adults with disabilities. I love it. I love this kind of stuff. So make sure you send us more of this stuff when you find it, speechsciencepodcast@gmail.com, or phone call or text us 614-681-1798. Before we send this thing to bed, Michelle Wintering, what are you doing this week that is fun and or exciting?
I'm headed to my 10-year college reunion this week.
What? You're not that old.
I know, right?
Ugh. I'm sorry.
I'm actually thrilled about it. I'm looking forward to meeting up with people and seeing some old friends.
That's okay. Today I was talking to somebody who had a family member teach at the undergrad school I went to, and they're like, well, they just started about 8 years ago. And I was like, oh, I might have known. Oh, no, I graduated there 11 years ago. What happened?
You just said that you're older than me.
I know. And the baby in the group, Michael, what are you doing this week that's fun and or exciting?
I will be typing up evals. So I will be laying low after my busy weekend in Tahoe. So yeah, I'm gonna lay low and I'm gonna love it.
Did you notice how he said Tahoe like it was just a normal thing? Like, oh, I just went to Tahoe.
Up in Tahoe.
That's right.
Hey, well, I want some SLPs from Tahoe to hashtag SSPod and tell us about how great Lake Tahoe is.
That would be awesome.
I want to hear from our Australian friends again, because I am a sucker for accents, and I want to hear speech therapy in an Australian accent.
I like it.
Oh, our opening music tonight was Please Listen Carefully by Jazar. It's licensed under an attribution and share alike license. Our bump music was the County Fair Rock, copyright of John Deku. You can find his music at soundcloud.com/dirtdogmusic. And our closing music is The Slow Burn by Kevin MacLeod. It's licensed under a Creative Commons and attribution license. My exciting thing for this next week, I am leaving Saturday to go to Disney World, which means next week's episode I will be live, sort of, from Disney. So I'm excited for that part. But in the immortal words of Janice Wright, in the situation that we call life, we want to try to be oaks, which are strong and tough trees. But unfortunately, when the going gets tough, those trees will crack. Always be a willow. Adapt to your surroundings. They will bend and then return to form. For fellow willows, Michelle Wintering and Michael MacLeod, I'm Matt Hott saying so long, everybody.
This has been an Exceptional Podcast Network production. Speech Science is edited and produced by MWH Production. Please follow Speech Science on Twitter at Speech Science PC and like our page on Facebook. For more original podcasts, please visit exceptionaled.com and rate and subscribe to our podcast anywhere you get your podcasts.